this is phenomenal. Why don't we do something with this? So he was a typist. He happened to be a typist. And so Helen would come to his office, and they would pull down the blinds, and she would read her notes from her shorthand, and he would type it. And they knew they were onto something because it stirred both of their souls. And this went on for 7 years. And the text came first. It's like 1,000 or so pages, 700 pages. And then afterwards a workbook came, 300 or so pages. And then a manual for teachers came, which is shorter, but it's Q&A basically. And in the course of this channeling, Helen said that she did it with great resistance. At first she did not want to do it at all, but it persisted, and finally she surrendered. And she said it was so consistent that she could be doing her writing, and then a doorbell would ring, and she would put down her pen and go and answer the door. And then she would attend to that and come back, and the author would pick up word for word where it had left off. That's how integrous the Course was. Now, the author of the Course identified himself as Jesus Christ. And, of course, this presents issues for some people because some people love Jesus, some people don't, some people believe, and some people doubt. And there are many, many references in the Course where Jesus refers to things that purportedly happened to him in the New Testament, and he takes phrases that are from the New Testament in his voice, and he says, when I said this, this is what I really meant. And so it's very clearly the voice of Christ. Now, you may or may not believe, but it doesn't matter, because what matters is the essence of the Course. I would spend no time arguing over whether this is really Jesus or not, whether you believe it or you don't. What a waste of time to go into that when you could be studying the Course and learning from it and enjoying it. So after 7 years, they took this big, thick pile of typed papers to some friends, and they said, this is fantastic. And a committee got together, and they formed the Foundation for Inner Peace. They had it published. It caught on like wildfire. There was no advertising. They never bought any advertising. They never did anything to promote the book except word of mouth. And it sold millions of copies. It's in many languages now. And it has personally changed my life in immeasurable ways. I have not found a higher teaching on the planet, and I've studied with many wonderful teachers. I've been doing the Course for 30 years now, and they say it's a 1-year course, but I'm a slow learner, and I keep doing it, not every year, but I've gone through it at least 15 or 20 times over this 30 years. And every time it's like the first. It's just an amazing thing where, you think you've done it, you think you've read it. I never claim to have mastered it, but, you gain mastery each time you go through it, and I could just swear that sometimes I get to a lesson, I think that was not here before. Somebody changed what was typed between the last time and this time, and it's a new lesson. But of course, the words were there. I'm just hearing them for the first time. And so it changes lives. I know people who are in the depths of despair and illness and sickness and pain and poverty and marital discord and hatred, and they just became changed. I remember there was a Jewish guy. A lot of Jewish people have been called to the Course. I don't know why, but it seems to speak to Jewish people. I don't know, maybe because Jews and Catholics share the same kind of guilt. I don't know. But it was a guy named Cliff, and he used to call me up, and he would say, I think he was a butcher in Brooklyn, and he'd say, Alan, he says, I just wanted to tell you I love you. Well, thanks, Cliff. Why'd you call right now? He said, well, my knee was hurting me, and the Course in Miracles said that whenever you're in pain, if you just give out more love, you'll feel better. And he says, I just want to tell you I love you. He says, I feel better. And the same guy, Cliff, told me that one night he was sitting in his living room watching TV, and a burglar came up through the fire escape. And Cliff confronted him, and the guy started to run away. And Cliff said, no, don't go, let's talk. What's going on in your life that would make you want to rob somebody? And the guy broke down, they had a chat, and Cliff gave him some money and he went away. And that's the kind of peace and serenity and safety that comes when you practice the Course. So I advertised that this teleseminar would be called The Course in Miracles Made Easy. And as we were driving home before the course, my partner Dee said to me, so how are you going to make it easy? And I said, it's already easy. I said, it's the easiest thing in the world, but we make it complicated. And why is it 1,100 pages? I'll tell you why, because it's appealing to people with complicated minds. I think that God finds people and meets them where they're at and speaks to them at levels that are interesting to them. And actually, the whole Course is summed up on the first page, which I'm opening to now. And it says, this Course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And in case you don't believe that, we'll give you 1,100 more pages to give you 1,000 more different angles to understand that. And so the Course says basically, here's some basic things as I understand the Course. One is that there is a God. In fact, one of the visions that Helen had while she was writing the Course, or slightly before, was she had a mystical vision where she was taken on a boat going through like a channel on an underground river. And she looked down and there was a golden book and in the water. So, I may not be getting this exactly, but it's close. And she picked up the book, and on the cover of the book it said, God is. God is. So the Course says that despite what CNN tells you, there is a very real God, a creator of the universe, a God of love, a God of perfection, a God of well-being, a God of eternal life, a God of everything that is wonderful and good as far as we can even understand it. And the Course goes on to say that only God is real, that everything that God is, which is life and love and well-being, is truth. It is eternal. It cannot be touched. It cannot be changed. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be erased. There is nothing about God that is fallible in any way. Everything else that doesn't look, feel, taste, smell, know like God is illusion. Everything else is temporary. Everything else is a trick of the mind. And when you wake up, as the old band song said, you will remember everything. And it says that the only reason that people experience suffering is because we've fallen into a form of delusion. We're having a bad dream. And it says in one of the early lessons, the first principles of miracles, it says, only the creations of light are real. Only the creations of light are real. Everything else is your own nightmare. So all the things that scare us and bring us pain are not of God. They are products of a distorted mind, or erroneous thoughts. And actually many people who have analyzed the Course say that although it's written in Christian language, it is actually closer in philosophy to Buddhism or Advaita Hinduism, which is a form of Hinduism that focuses on oneness. So it's kind of interesting that it spans those different religions. When you get to the top of the mountain of truth, the differences between the religions are very small or minimal, if any. The Course goes on to say that you are a child of God, that you are a spiritual being, that you are created in the image of likeness of God, and everything that God is, you are. And one of the lessons in the workbook says something like, today we will identify with all the attributes of God. And so you affirm God is love, and therefore I am love. God is peace, therefore I am peace. God is well, therefore I am well. God is power, therefore I am power. And you start to claim that what God is, you are, and I am. And at the same time, you disavow anything that you think applies to you that does not apply to God. So you think you're going to die. Well, could God die? Well, therefore you are deathless. You think you are ill. Could God be sick? Not really. Therefore, who I truly am is not ill. And this is the basis, friends, of all spiritual healing, that you have to raise your consciousness above mortal limitation and start to line up and identify with spiritual reality. That is the only way healing happens. If you think you are a limited, mortal, fallible, stupid, abused, victimized person, you do not have the leverage to see broadly enough to see where healing lives. And if you truly want to be a healer of any kind, whether it's a teacher, a parent, a hands-on healer, you have to learn to think with God and see your clients and your patients and your children and your students through divine eyes. I remember once some friends of mine had a baby and there were complications at birth and the kid was in intensive care, and so I went to visit the family and they were kind of looking at the baby through this little window, and the family was very upset, parents and grandparents, and I asked Holy Spirit, I said, how can I serve here? What would you like me to do? And the voice said, see the child's perfection. Do not go into fear with these people. And of course it's understandable. The parents were afraid and the grandparents were afraid, and it said, your gift to this family is your vision of the child's wholeness. You don't even have to say a word. Just know the truth about this child. Do not go into fear. And I was able fairly well to hold that space, and then by the grace of God, the child started to get better. Now, I'm not claiming that I healed the child, but I am saying that I do believe that I contributed to the well-being of that child and the family by seeing wellness and wholeness and holding peace where others were not. And sometimes when I do a lecture, especially at various New Thought churches, the church will appoint somebody to be the space holder for the lecture, which means that while I'm doing the seminar, it'll be like a 2 or 3 hour seminar, somebody will sit off to the side with their eyes closed, and they will just hold the energy and pray and hold the vision, and they do not get lost in what I'm doing, they do not get lost in what the audience is doing, they don't listen to the music, they just hold the vision for the program to be a success, for healing, for peace, for well-being. And God bless those people, because I look over at them and I feel good. I think, wow, somebody here is praying for me and holding the space while I'm doing this program that has to contribute. You know, how can that not contribute? And people are having their emotional ups and downs and their laughters and their tears, and they're present or they're not. But one person in that space is holding the space, and that's a gift to me and everyone. And so the Course would say that your true gift, it says that the only responsibility of a miracle worker, and it says everybody is a miracle worker, that you were born to be a miracle worker, not that you have to go around and lay on hands or have any flashy stuff, but to lift people to the consciousness of miracles. It says the only responsibility is the healing of your own mind. Your only responsibility is the healing of your own mind, because if you are lost in illusion and you're stuck in pain, or you have given yourself to fear, or you're worried about stuff, you're not in a great position to be helpful because you've aligned with mortal thinking. But if you can remember God where others are forgetting it, or see beauty where others see ugliness, or see peace where others see war, then you are making a major contribution to everyone on the planet. Dee was telling me that she's been following the Occupy movement and stuff on the internet, and somebody was holding a sign at one of the Occupy movements who said, this was somebody who was campaigning in front of Obama's headquarters. That's right. They were trying to influence Obama. And the sign said, fighting for peace is like screaming for quiet. Fighting for peace is like screaming for quiet. I remember in the early 90s when President Bush started his problems with Saddam Hussein, and he said that the forces of peace will win this war. And something, when he said that, went clunk, like something didn't feel quite right about the forces of peace will win this war. And the problem was that you don't win wars by beating other people up. You win wars by holding peace, by being peaceful. Peace is your contribution to the end of war. And there's actually a beautiful, beautiful passage. There's so many passages in the Course that are so poetic. In fact, the entire Course is written in iambic pentameter, which was the poetic meter of Shakespeare. And there's a beautiful section in the Healer's Manual, and it says, how will the world end? And I'll paraphrase now. It says, the world will end in peace because there's a place of war. The world will end in joy because there's a place of hardship. The world will end in laughter because there's a place of tears. And so it's giving us the key to end problems on earth. Intrapersonal problems within you and within me, and interpersonal problems such as wars and strife in public. So I am convinced that if I live the teachings of the Course in Miracles, and anybody else does, somehow the world is lifted closer to heaven. I mean, my world is lifted closer to heaven at least because I'm happy. And then, of course, because I'm happy, I send out a set of ripples of vibrations that influence everybody around me to be happy. And, I've been studying healing and practicing healing and receiving healing for many years, and I've become very sensitive to what is the healing experience. And I remember years ago I was rushing through the San Francisco airport. And, most people in airports are kind of harried and busy, and it's kind of an overwhelming energy. And I remember there was a guy walking toward me from a distance, and he just had a peaceful look on his face. He just looked very serene in the midst of kind of a frenzied crowd. And the moment I saw him, I felt relaxed. I was like, oh. Like my solar plexus opened and my shoulders dropped, and I felt like, well, I don't have to rush to my plane. I didn't. And I don't know who that man was. He wasn't dressed in robes, and he wasn't a priest. He was just a guy, and he looked very peaceful. And I thought, And that was, 20 years ago at least. I'm still talking about that guy to this day. I'll never see him again. I'll never know his name. Maybe I'll see him, but it's like he was a healer. He was just exuding a healing vibration in the midst of a vibration that I did not perceive to be very healed. And so the Course says, and here's the way it gets really simple. Like if you don't remember anything else about why the Course works, just remember this. The Course says that every thought you think, every word you speak, every feeling you feel, and every act you do proceeds from either love or fear. It says that there are really only two emotions in the universe, love and fear. And all the other emotions that we designate, joy, exuberance, excitement, passion, thrill, depression, anxiety, obsession, irritation. You can really package all of those into one category or the other. One feels good, one doesn't. One is reflective of truth, another is not. And I often ask people when I'm coaching them, they'll say, well, I'd like to start my new business, but I'm just worried. I had a business that crashed 10 years ago, and I'm just worried that if I start another business, it'll crash again. I'll owe more money. And I'll ask them, now, is that the voice of love or is that the voice of fear? And if you do any coaching or healing, this is a really good technique, because most people get it. The person will say, well, I guess it's come from fear, isn't it? Okay, you got it. And what would the voice of love say? And they'll say, well, the voice says trust. The voice says take it step by step. Flow. Does that feel better? Yeah, that feels a lot better. Do we have a direction now? Yeah, we have a direction now. And it's a really good technique. And if you're really honest about all your feelings, you can trace them back to love or fear. And you will notice, I mean, it's so simple. The Course is so simple, that when you do things out of love and joy and celebration and creativity and self-honoring, they work. Good things come from love. You will also notice that when you act out of fear, it backfires. And now guilt is another form of fear. It's a very polished form of fear because it makes you believe it's real. Someone said that the Jews invented guilt and the Catholics perfected it. And so it's a wonderful practice to notice how your feelings and thoughts and ideas make you feel. Just to follow up on that previous idea, many, many years ago, I was studying with a teacher who announced that the world was coming to an end, basically, and the tribulation was coming, and the economy was going to crash, and this teacher recommended somebody in this group said, well, go out and get gold and silver because you can always count on them. Sell your real estate and forget about your job. Just buy gold and silver and you'll be all right. And I was young and I believed this and I was in fear. And they were selling these bags of silver coins. They used to make dimes out of pure silver until like 1967, and then they changed it to some other form. So these silver dimes were worth something because they were pure silver. So at the time, people were selling, and the price of gold was skyrocketing as was silver. So they were selling these little bags of silver dimes for $2,000 because that's what the silver was worth. So I got together with two other people in the class, and I said, "Let's get silver." Yeah, let's get silver. Okay, we're all going to chip in. Yeah. Okay. And so I went and I spent $2,000 on this little bag of silver, and then that was like my savings. And when I went back to the other people, I said, "Okay, now you're going to chip in $700. You're going to chip in $700." Oh no, we changed our mind. So I ended up with this little bag of silver for $2,000. Oh man, what do I do now? So I just held on to it, and then the economy shifted and didn't fall apart. And then years later, I asked my secretary to sell. I moved, and she had it in her. I don't know where we had it, but she had it, and I said, "Just sell it for whatever you can get for it." And I looked on the internet, and now the price had gone down to $200. So I just said, "Okay, well, get what you can for it." Okay, so I said, she calls me up the next day. "Just sell it?" "Yeah, how much did you get for it?" "I got $60 for it." So that was my big adventure in saving myself by buying silver. And it was a fabulous lesson because I was totally motivated by fear. That was not a creative act. That was not a joyful act. That was not a visionary act. That was a protective, fearful act. And I lost it all. maybe if I had it to do over again, I would, because, if you went to a seminar and you could learn to never again act out of fear, and the price of that seminar was $2,000, would you pay it? You probably would. So from that experience, I learned that any act that proceeds from fear never has positive results. And that's why in the Bible, in the New Testament, Jesus said, by their fruits ye shall know them. If stuff is spirit-guided, it works. If stuff is fear-guided, it doesn't work. So if something in your life is not working, whether it's a job or your relationship or a body, ask yourself, what element of this is being guided by fear? And if you can be honest about the parts of your job that are fear-driven, or the parts of your relationship that are fear-driven, or the parts of your body that are fear-driven, and replace fear with love. Ask yourself, if I were not afraid, how would I be doing this differently? That's the best question you could ever ask yourself. If I were not afraid in this relationship, how would I be approaching this relationship differently? If I were not afraid about money, how would I be dealing with money differently? If I were not afraid about my career, if I were coming from vision and expansion and service and excitement in my career, what would I be doing differently? And it's amazing how quickly love replaces fear and miracles happen. This is, this really is a Course in Miracles, because we get stuck we paint ourselves into these corners and we don't know how to get out of them. And then we apply love and somehow a door appears where there was only a wall before. I've become a great big fan of Nikola Tesla. Do you know who he was? He was a visionary genius who actually is responsible for our entire electrical system on the planet. He discovered and made use of AC electricity. He invented wireless communications. He invented the X-ray. He invented neon lighting. And he was just like way ahead of his time. He's my new role model for a visionary. And I saw his biography on video. Look him up on YouTube, anywhere else. You can find Nikola Tesla. Just watch anything you can about him. He's very inspiring. And as a young man, he grew up in Serbia, what is now Serbia. And he, at that time, his father was a priest, and his father wanted him to become a priest. And at the age of 17, Tesla contracted a very bad case of cholera, and he was very, very, very close to death. He wanted to be a scientist. He wanted to be Nikola Tesla. And he was very, very close to death, and his father came and sat on his deathbed and said, "Is there any way I can help you, son? Is there anything that would make you live?" And Tesla said, "Yes." He said, I just can't imagine being a priest. Science is my great love." And his father said, "Very well then, I'll do what I can to send you to the best scientific college in the world." And at that moment, his health shifted, and very soon he rose from his deathbed. And that's what happens when people live from fear or feel trapped or limited. They start dying. And, some people commit suicide, but a lot of people commit suicide very slowly over a long period of time by drinking or worrying or overworking or fighting or stressing, and daily your life force diminishes until one day you die and they say, well, it was a certain disease. But if you trace back the thread of fear, you could see exactly when that fear started and how it grew. On the other hand, if you start to follow the voice of love, somehow every door opens and all healing comes. I am literally convinced that love can heal anything. I have seen love heal diseases and finances and families, because love is of God and fear is not. Let me make one or two more short points, and then we will open up the floor for questions, discussions, comments, anything you like. And this refers to the Course's take on truth and illusion. The Course says very clearly that only what is good and loving is true. Everything else is a passing illusion. It's just the dance of Maya, as the Hindus say. It is just polarity playing itself out. And the Course says we are dreaming the dream of this world. It says that you are not in the world, but the world is in you. The world you see out there is nothing more or less than a projection of your mind. It says that we create the world with our thoughts. There is no such thing as the world. And it says many, many times in the Course, the world is not. The world, there's no world out there. The entire world lives inside your head. And we project our beliefs, for better or worse, onto what we call the world, and then we live in that world as if it's true, and then we experience it, we find verifications that our beliefs are true, and then we get together with other people who believe that it's the same world, and we form support groups and organizations, and all to affirm the world that we have projected onto the screen. And the Course says, it doesn't use this language, but I'm sure it's correct if I paraphrase, that it's a movie, that you are watching the movie of your thoughts projected onto a screen. And there's actually a very literal experience that kind of demonstrates this. I heard that many years ago when motion pictures first came out, there were a group of cowboys that got together in a bunkhouse in South Dakota to watch the first movie, which was projected on a sheet on a wall. And the movie happened to be of Indians, and there were a bunch of Indians coming up over a rise with war paint and hooping and hollering. And one cowboy took out his six-shooter and shot 6 shots at the screen. And they turned on the lights and everybody laughed, and there was a blank white screen with 6 bullet holes in it. And the Course would say that that's exactly what happens when we try to attack the world. When we try to make war, and we try to defend ourselves, and we try to protect our body in such a way that the body becomes the thing rather than the spirit. So the Course says the only answer to projecting a fearful world is to find love inside you and project that. And the Course says that that's not even a form of projection, that's a form of extension. It says that because you are love, when you see the world as loving, then you are becoming one with the world, and there's no more separation, and you are God, and the world is God, and so ends suffering. And the great sage Ramana Maharshi said it this way. This particular phrase has given me more to think about than perhaps any other individual phrase I've heard in many, many years. And it goes like this. He said, "A dreamer dreams that all the characters in his dream must wake up before he can." Let me say that again. A dreamer dreams that all the other characters in his dream must wake up before he can. Now, some of you may be sitting there scratching your head going, what? Well, what he meant by this is because there is the people you see out there are basically your projections of your own thoughts and beliefs about them. We don't see other people. We see their idea of people. You're not in love with somebody. You're in love with your idea of them. Of course, if you're in love with them deeply, then it's a spiritual love. But what most people call romantic love is basically just falling in love with an idea more than a person. If you've ever gotten divorced, you know exactly what I mean. I fell in love with his potential. And what Ramana Maharshi was saying was that if you think that you have to fix the world or save it or heal it or remedy it or correct it before you can be happy, what you're saying is that everybody in your dream has to wake up before you can. However, once you wake up from a dream, especially if it's a nightmare, we've all had nightmares. When you wake up from the nightmare, the horrible things that were happening in the nightmare disappear. What happened to them? Well, I say it was just a dream. Well, the Course would say that any horrible thing you see happening in the world is nothing more than a nightmare that you've made up and you're living in it. And there's actually one of the early lessons says something like, okay, consider what scares you in this world. And I ask you to name a plane crash, name cancer, name heart attacks, name plagues, name suffering. And I ask you to recognize that this is basically a thought that you've created, and it is not worthy of fear. And that's a big one, because you say, well, I have to heal people, I have to change people, I have to fix people. But you cannot change people as long as you see them as less than God. So I know I'm saying a mouthful here, and I'm still practicing myself. But the Course would say your only job is to wake up, and from an awake state, then you have the power to awaken. And this is how I believe Jesus healed, that he was awake. And, if you've ever been around an enlightened being or being in a moment of enlightenment, their energy is so powerful and pure and loving that you just want to be around them, and you sit in their space, and they don't have to say. I study with many gurus, and the best of them, you just sit with them. They don't have to say a word, and they just ooze light, and they just ooze love, and they just ooze peace, and you just want to be around them. Why? Because they're awake, and awakeness exudes a unique vibration. And really, enlightenment is contagious. That when someone is unenlightened, you catch it from them because you lift to their vibration. And when you're enlightened, other people will catch it from you because they lift to your vibration. Okay, well, we could go on forever, couldn't we? But that's my idea of how A Course in Miracles works. And now let's open the door for some of you. If you would like to ask a question or make a comment, press *2, and I will call on you. And I'll call on you by the last 4 digits of your phone number and your city if I don't have your name. So let's go to Dallas and talk to number 9573. Sounds very impersonal, doesn't it? But that's all I have. Okay.
Hi, it's Deborah.
Oh, Deborah. Hi, Deborah.
Hi. I know this might sound like a stupid question, but I started reading the book, and I don't think I'm getting what I need out of it, and it keeps saying atonement. What does that mean? Like, what does that word mean?
Okay, that's a big word, isn't it? I don't think hardly anybody understands it, but I do.
I hope you can explain it to me.
Okay, substitute for the word atonement undoing or unraveling. It means that you're releasing your fixation and stuckness on the forms that keep you small or lost or confused and in pain. And you're basically lightening up on your attachment to the world, and your mind is reverting to the clarity and the purity that exists when you're at peace in God. Does that make any sense to you, dear?
I guess that's being awake and enlightened.
Yes, very close to it. Yes. Do you
so
meditate?
How do I do
Well,
that?
have you ever meditated, dear? Do you have meditation practice?
I don't have like a daily practice, but I do try to visualize like cleaning chakras, and I do guided meditations. I do some journaling.
Those are good, and they really help. And I'll tell you a little secret, that what most people call meditation when they do a visualization is not pure meditation. It leads you to pure meditation. But real meditation is when your mind comes to a place of stillness and quietude, and your heart is at peace, and suddenly all the things that seem so troubling don't seem so real or important anymore, and you just feel good inside. You just feel whole and well and good with yourself. Does that make any sense to you?
I'm sorry?
Does that make any sense to you? Have you had moments, dear, when you just feel peaceful and good and the world doesn't seem so burdensome and you just feel light and free? Have you had moments like that?
Not any that I can remember at this moment.
Okay. So in your whole life you haven't felt like clear or free at any point? Maybe when you were a child even? Can you remember anything like that?
No, I think I'm really resisting seeing those things for some reason.
Well, maybe you are. But so what I'd like you to do is this. I'd like you to, if you can take some form of meditation that calms your mind, such as watching the breath or vipassana or a mantra or an om or something like that, or sit outside and look at the sky or look at the ocean or just listen to a stream going by or listen to a feng shui fountain or something like that. And if you can just get to a place where your mind starts to calm down a little bit, suddenly it'll seem as if clouds were dispersing. And what seems so cloudy and thick and overbearing and overcast, suddenly it starts to break up and some little rays of light come through and you just feel lighter and freer.
Okay.
Try that.
Okay.
But
all
you
right,
know,
I'll try that.
just the fact that you asked means that you're ready to shift. Even if you didn't get even if I didn't give you an earth-shaking answer, the fact that you asked and set the process rolling means that something inside you is ready to know what the atonement means, or at the very least, the coming home to peace.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I wish you that, and I bet you that will happen. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, we got some more people with their hands raised. Let's go to Jay Staten. Is that your name?
Hi, Alan. This is Jackie.
Jesse?
Jackie.
Hi, Jackie. Hello, Jackie. Yes, what would you like to share, asked Jackie?
I'd like to compliment you on your work, referring to the books and the online show at hayhouseradio.com.
Uh-huh.
That's the first part. And the second part is, aside from, I think, the influence of the Course in Miracles in a lot of your talks and your writings, I think the most helpful thing has been to look at the opportunity to incorporate love every day.
Uh-huh.
I think that's a summary of what I'm getting from affirmations and the Course in Miracles.
Right.
And it's just simpler that way.
Right.
It feels like when I've had opportunities to really search myself and ask myself, directing my efforts in the direction of love or fear,
Right.
the answer is always very finite. It's either love or fear.
Right.
And it serves as a compass.
Right.
That would, I think, just assist me throughout my day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And my question to you is, can it be any more simpler than that?
No, it couldn't. Well, it could be. You could just drop into deep silence and deep knowingness.
Okay.
But as long as you're living and thinking and being informed and interacting socially and have family and job and eat food and do all that kind of stuff, really living from love and letting love be your guide is the best form of technique I know to be happy in the world. And then, you have your meditation and prayer time and maybe you drop into a deeper space of quietude. But what could be more powerful than love? I mean, I haven't found anything.
I agree with you. I can share very briefly that there was a time, almost 5 to 6 years back, Alan, where I was severely depressed.
Yes?
And I wasn't reading any of the Course in Miracles. I wasn't keeping up with affirmations as consistently. But the one thing that did work, and this is a very true story, I prayed to God, and I said, please just let me be the most loving person I can be.
Great.
And everything healed for me bit by bit.
Yeah.
And I think the final stages of true healing consists of no longer questioning, is this working or not? Because there are days where it doesn't seem that it does.
Right.
But it's affirming that love is the answer and that that is the right track, because you have the references to when you were not in a space of loving, at least not consciously, and you get to reach for that and you say, I'd rather be kind, if loving is not necessarily the feeling that you would want to reach for.
Well, that was a perfect prayer, and it worked. And you just made it simpler. I mean, do you really need the 1,100 pages if you just practice love and kindness? I mean, I don't think so. I think that the Course is just moving us in that direction, and it's the living of the Course more than the thinking about it that gets you where you need to go.
Right. So, in all fairness, whether I think it's an extended view of choosing love and kindness on a regular basis, or a more simplified version, which I found, I think, through the seeking of that guidance, either way, it's good to have.
Yes, thank you. Well, beautiful. We have some other people with their hands raised, but thank you very much. It was a lovely comment. Thanks, Jackie.
You're welcome, Alan.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, let's call on the person from Wilmington whose phone number ends in 7415. Hello. What's your name?
Ryan Burns.
Hey, Ryan. What would you like to
Hi.
say? Thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. I just had some, comments and questions, but I'm just going to kind of make them brief. So one question is, how do you feel like the Course and the living of the Course relates to the teachings of Christ that are found in the New Testament?
I think it relates beautifully, because it's the basic teachings of Christ in the New Testament are that of love and forgiveness and remembrance of God and service and kindness and wholeness and eternal life, and and the Course basically just speaks all those things, maybe in a slightly different language, but I think if you boil it down, it is the message of Jesus Christ, of the New Testament and the Cohen.
Yeah, I do. I do agree, and the reason why I asked is because I grew up reading the Bible, and I was really young and from a young age, and what I realized is that it wasn't the Bible so much; it was my level of consciousness, and as I've kind of raised my level of consciousness through the Course and through, I practice yoga, and I'm also listen to Buddhist teachings, but like you said earlier in the talk, that once you get to the top of the spiritual mountain, all the different, all the gaps between the religions start to narrow considerably. And so what I found for me is that as I come to the reading of the New Testament along with reading the Course, which I do on a most day-to-day basis now, everything in the New Testament is it's alive and it's vibrant with its way of calling me to action, service, and love, versus when I was younger and more affiliated with a religious mindset, it was making me special, different, and apart from the rest of the world.
Right.
And so now I'm just coming to understand the synergy between the two, and it just is really inspiring me to just, to live it out to the best of my ability, which is, constantly falling short, but learning from those, those foibles, and just continuing to, humble myself, but yet and still affirm that I'm a child of God, and I'm here to learn, I'm here to grow, and I'm here to give, and whatever that looks like each day, just to kind of show up with an open-heartedness, and it's just been a beautiful path. So
beautiful. Well, you made a beautiful point, Ryan, when you said that, now that you've studied the Course, you're more joining with people rather than separating. And recently, somebody gave a definition of difference between religion and spirituality, and they said that spiritual people don't kill people who disagree with them. And so, I think the closer you come to truth, the more you want to join with people and find the good in them and find the rightness in what they're doing, rather than criticizing or making wrong or fighting. Yeah,
and I just noticed that the healing of my perception day in and day out starts to focus on that ability versus to not trust that.
Yeah, beautiful.
So thank you so much for your talk. It's really, really helpful. Yeah,
thank you. Thanks for joining. Beautiful comments. Thank you. Okay, a couple more people have their hands up. If you still want to chat, we might have time for one or two more. Raise your hand by pressing *2. We'll go to Shelburne, Ontario, and talk to somebody whose last number is 2293. How you doing there, bud? Hey. Hi, 2293. Who's this?
I can tell you're liking the numbers instead of a name. It's Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Hi. I just wanted, I have a comment and then I have a question for you. One of the first books that got me into all the new thought was The Dragon Doesn't Live Here Anymore.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted you to know that. And I have a question. I did have the Course in Miracles, and I loaned it to a friend about 20 years ago and never got it back. And I'm going to reorder it so that I can go through the book again. Mm-hmm. But I've been working in developmental services for a long, long time, and I received a package in January that takes me to August. I've always had a dream of writing my life story. I've never been okay with my life story until recently, and a lot of that, it took me forgiving a lot of what happened and getting myself to a vulnerable place to be okay to write the book. But how do I take this, because there's a big fear I'm running around lack because of, what happens when the money runs out and the package runs out. How do I turn that into loving where I am? I mean, I love where I am right now. It's giving me an opportunity to do something I've wanted to do for a long time. But I have this niggling fear in the back of my mind that I've got to move into love.
Mm-hmm. Well, how about reframing it and seeing yourself not as the end of your package, but as the beginning of a new package, that nothing happens by chance, and everything is spirit-directed ultimately. So if you're being pushed out of your old comfort zone, your old security zone, it tells me that there's something new and more wonderful awaiting you. And if you could just follow your passion and be authentic and trust higher power, doors will open that you wouldn't have perceived at the old level of consciousness. Does that ring any bells for you?
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. And I have the inner knowing. It's the mind chatter that gets me in trouble.
Yeah. So it's very useful to become familiar with the frequency of that mind chatter. Let me give you a little exercise. Did you say your name was Linda? Was that it?
It is. Yeah.
Okay, Linda. So, okay, Linda, tell me, if you would, the name of your best friend, first name.
Agnes.
Agnes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, if Agnes called you up, does Agnes live near you?
About an hour away.
Okay. So if Agnes called you up and did not say her name, but just said, "Hi, I need to meet you in 2 hours at Starbucks. It's important. Just be there." Would you go?
Yes.
Okay. If somebody called you up whose voice you did not recognize and said, "Hi, this is Agnes. I need you to meet me at Starbucks in 2 hours," but the voice was very different and not quite friendly, would you go?
Probably not.
I hope you wouldn't. And so the idea is that the voice of love has a frequency. It brings peace, and it brings relief. It brings it brings awakening. It brings that feels good. Recently, I had a challenge with somebody, and I was holding on to something I wanted them to do, and it didn't look like they wanted to do it. And I kind of grinded about it for a while. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, why don't I just forget about it and let her do what she wants? And the moment I thought that, I just felt relieved, like I felt like I got off the cross, like, oh man, it felt so much better just to forget about it than to try to force her to do something. So that feeling of relief and was like, okay, now you're back into the love frequency. And on the other hand, when the voice of fear speaks, that niggling voice you mentioned, it makes uptightness. And what else do you experience when that niggling voice? What happens in your body and your emotions when that voice speaks to you, Linda?
It's kind of a heaviness.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a weight in the solar plexus.
Right.
Is where I feel it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So what I want you to do, I'm going to suggest a practice for you if you want to play. So begin to be more and more discerning and sensitively attuned to how each of those voices feels when they show up.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll start to develop a discrimination showing you that, even though the niggling voice says, yeah, you should do this, this is spiritual, yeah, you'll be safe, yeah, I'm advising you well now. But the tone of it and the result of it in your solar plexus will tell you that it's not it. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, when the voice of love speaks and you start to feel relaxed and free and, well, I'll be all right, and, I've been okay so far, and I've gone through changes in my life so far, all of a sudden you go, yeah, I can live with that.
Yeah, it's kind of a feeling, it's kind of an excitement.
Exactly.
That happens. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Okay, so just kind of get to know those two and yeah, I understand what you're saying.
And practice acting on the love voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And trusting it and letting it be good. And practice not acting on the fear voice or substituting a loving act for a fearful act. Mm-hmm. And you'll get real feedback. You'll get immediate you'll get miracles. I mean, things will shift that you could not have planned or controlled because you trusted.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
Bye.
We'll talk to one more person, and that will be somebody from Gainesville, number 4731. Hi, 4731. You're on the call. Hello, are you there? If you had yourself on mute by pressing star 7, press star 7 if you were on mute before. Okay. Are you there? Gainesville? Calling Gainesville? Say something? Okay, we're not making the connection. Sorry. Okay. Well, we have just a few minutes left, and I want to close with a guided visualization, if I may. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. This is the first in my series of free teleseminars, and I hope you have found value in it. In case you're interested, we're having a retreat at the end of May in Colorado called Metaphysics and Miracles, a 4-day celebration of higher power. And call my office if you're interested. And if you would like to become a life coach or use life coach principles, I am doing my annual life coach training session starting in September. It's a 6-month program. It's a very powerful, valuable, life-changing course. So you can look on my website for either or both of those classes. And we will announce our future free teleseminars if you follow my website or put your name on. You're probably already on my mailing list for my e-newsletter. So if you're not already, just go to my website and sign up for it. So let's take the last couple of minutes, if you will, to close your eyes and take a deep breath. And I would like you to consciously drop into the place inside your heart that knows what love feels like. And even those niggling thoughts may be going on, and but at any moment, especially this one, you have the power to just say, I choose not to play in that arena, and I will now drop into the love space in my heart. And the wonderful thing about the love space is that it's always there. You don't have to go anywhere to get to love. You just let go of that which is not love, and all that remains is love. So find a place inside your heart that is already loving. And begin to notice the feelings that come when you choose love. Ease, relief, freedom, creativity, kindness, caring, self-acceptance, self-affirmation. And this place we're going to is beyond words. Words can lead you there, but once you're in that love space, it speaks for itself. Love has its own language. It's like music. Music is a language unto itself. Nature is a language unto itself. And the core of all beauty in the universe is love. And at this moment, I invite you to reclaim your identity as a loving being. You know you are a loving being at your core, even if you've done, quote, mean things, even if you feel guilty, even if somebody criticizes you, even if you're not perfect. At my essence, I am love. And everything God is, I am. And if I believe in a God of love, and I believe that I am created by God, then everything that God is me. Could God be sick? No. Could God be afraid? No. Could God die? No. I am pure spirit. In fact, spirit is living through me. Spirit is expressing through me, that my life is an expression of spiritual truth. And so it can relax a little bit, and I can quit trying so hard. I can quit trying to become something good. I am already good. I can quit trying to change the world. When I drop into peace, I suddenly find a world that seems peaceful because I am now looking through the eyes of peace. And so I set aside all the burdens that fear would lay on my shoulders, the obligations and responsibilities and have-tos and shoulds, and all of those come from fear. And so at this moment, whether I've studied the Course in Miracles once or for many years or never, I begin to be who I really am, and I put aside everything that's not love, and I let love be my guide. And from this moment on, whenever I have a crossroads or a question, I ask myself, if I were feeling love and loving and coming from love and knew that love was present in the situation, what would I do? And suddenly I remember that love is here. Love is in me. Love is around me. And as the Course in Miracles says, if you knew who walked beside you on this path that you have chosen, fear would be impossible. And so at this moment, there are many people around the entire globe who are on this call, Canada and Japan and Australia, all over the U.S. So at this moment, space does not become an issue, and suddenly in spirit we're all together and we're all in love, that there's nothing that can make a division between love and itself. So at this moment we break free of any illusions and limits that have kept us small, and suddenly we are all the love in the universe. I am love. I am in love. Love is in me. So I send all of you love and blessings, everyone who's on the call. Even if you're listening to a recording of this call after the fact, you are embraced and enfolded in the love space. I wish you all miracles. I sincerely, heartfully encourage you to do the Course. If the text seems abstruse, just start with the lessons. It takes 2 minutes the first day. It goes on from there. Just keep going through the lessons day by day. They work. They are real. They are guided by God. Your life will change. The Course in Miracles is a gift from God, and it's really a gift from the God in you to the God in you. It's a gift you have given yourself to make your life wonderful, to wake up from the dream and return home to the arms of God. And if you care to repeat out loud right where you are and say, and so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you all very much for joining me. Bless you, and I hope to see you again sometime somewhere. Aloha.
The moderator has left the conference.